Every day, the world competes for one thing more valuable than your money: your attention. Every notification, every headline, every distraction steals a piece of your future. While most people become addicted to interruption, a small minority are quietly building extraordinary lives through one forgotten ability: deep focus. This audiobook is about reclaiming that ability. Because your success is no longer determined by how busy you are. It's determined by how long you can stay focused on what truly matters. Protect your attention. Protect your future. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Stop letting the world think for you. Look around you. Not at the people. Look at what is controlling them. A phone vibrates, and a hand reaches for it before a conscious thought is formed. A notification appears, and attention shifts instantly. A headline flashes across a screen, and an emotion is created before a fact is examined. A short video ends, and another begins automatically. Minutes disappear, then hours. Eventually, years. This is not an accident. Your attention has become one of the most valuable resources in the modern world, and countless companies are competing to capture it. Every app is designed to keep you engaged. Every platform is designed to pull you back. Every notification is carefully engineered to interrupt whatever mattered before. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't control their attention anymore. Their attention is rented out to whoever can create the next distraction. You have a choice. You can continue living this way, reacting to whatever demands your focus next, or you can decide that your attention belongs to you. That's the key. Because attention is your life. Think about that sentence for a moment. Attention is your life. Your life is nothing more than the collection of moments you choose to notice. Whatever receives your attention eventually shapes your thoughts. Your thoughts shape your actions. Your actions build your habits. Your habits determine your future. If someone controls your attention, they gradually influence your future. That is why every distraction has a price. The price isn't just a few wasted minutes. The price is momentum. The price is clarity. The price is opportunity. The price is becoming the person you could have been. Most people never calculate that cost because distractions feel harmless. Checking your phone for 30 seconds doesn't seem dangerous. Reading one more article doesn't seem expensive. Watching one more video feels insignificant. But your future isn't stolen in dramatic moments. It's stolen one interruption at a time. Every distraction has a price. Remember that. Guard what guards your future. Modern life doesn't simply contain distractions. It manufactures them. There was a time when silence was normal. A person could walk, think, observe, and simply exist without constant interruption. Today, silence has become uncomfortable for many people. The moment boredom appears, they reach for a screen. Not because they need information, because they have forgotten how to be alone with their own thoughts. That habit slowly weakens the mind. A distracted mind becomes dependent on stimulation. A focused mind becomes capable of creation. Those are completely different lives. You have a choice. Now imagine two people. They graduated from the same university. They have similar intelligence. They possess similar skills. They even receive the same career opportunity. At first glance, their futures appear identical. But over the next 10 years, something remarkable happens. The first person begins each morning with purpose. They identify one important task and give it complete attention. They silence notifications. They refuse unnecessary interruptions. They finish difficult work before consuming entertainment. They train themselves to remain present even when the work becomes uncomfortable. The second person also works hard, or at least they believe they do. They answer messages while writing reports. They check social media during meetings. They watch videos while eating. They switch between emails, news, conversations, podcasts, and dozens of unfinished tasks every day. Both people stay busy. Only one moves forward. The difference isn't intelligence. It isn't talent. It isn't luck. It's concentration. That's the key. Focus is a competitive advantage. In a distracted world, the person who can concentrate for 2 uninterrupted hours becomes extraordinary almost by default. Think about that. You no longer have to be the smartest person in the room. You simply have to remain focused while everyone else becomes distracted. That single ability compounds over months. It compounds over years. Books get written. Businesses get built. Skills become mastery. Relationships deepen. Ideas become reality. Meanwhile, the distracted person stays active but never creates meaningful progress. Movement is not progress. Busyness is not productivity. Noise is not achievement. It's not about working harder. It's about protecting attention. Attention is your life. There is another truth that many people never recognize. Distraction feels productive. Answering messages creates the illusion of accomplishment. Refreshing email creates the illusion of responsibility. Reading endless advice creates the illusion of learning. But illusions never produce results. Only focused action does. You don't need another productivity trick. You don't need another motivational speech. You don't need their permission. You need uninterrupted commitment. That's the discipline. It's not about having more hours. It's about defending the hours you already have. Guard what guards your future. Now ask yourself an uncomfortable question. How many times today did someone else decide what you would think about? A notification, a trending topic, a breaking news story, an advertisement, a random opinion online. How many times did your own priorities disappear because something louder demanded your attention? Most people never notice this happening. They believe they're making choices. Often, they're simply reacting. Reaction becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. You have a choice. You can continue reacting, or you can begin directing. The people who achieve remarkable things are rarely those with unlimited energy. They are the people who refuse unnecessary interruptions. They understand that saying yes to one distraction means saying no to something more important. Every distraction has a price. Repeat that until it becomes automatic. Every distraction has a price. Because once you truly believe that, your behavior begins to change. You hesitate before opening another app. You pause before checking another notification. You ask yourself one simple question: is this worth my attention? If the answer is no, you move on. That small decision changes everything. This is how deep focus begins, not with complicated systems, not with expensive tools, not with perfect motivation. It begins with awareness. It begins with recognizing that your attention is under attack every single day. And once you see that clearly, you stop giving it away so easily. Attention is your life. Guard what guards your future. Remember those words because they will become the foundation of everything that follows in this audiobook. The goal isn't to eliminate technology. The goal isn't to isolate yourself from the world. The goal is far more powerful. To become someone who decides where attention goes instead of allowing the world to decide for you. That transformation starts today, not tomorrow, not next Monday, not after life becomes easier. Now, because deep focus is no longer a luxury. It is survival. It is leadership. It is freedom. And it begins with one decision. The battle is not outside you. The battle is not on your phone. The battle is not inside your workplace. The battle begins inside your mind. Master that battle, and you begin reclaiming your future. Now that you understand why the world is constantly pulling your attention away, it's time to understand the machinery behind it. Chapter 2. Your brain was never designed for constant noise. Your brain is extraordinary. It can solve problems that once seemed impossible. It can learn languages, invent businesses, create art, build families, and imagine futures that do not yet exist. But despite all its power, your brain has one important limitation. It was never designed to process constant noise. Modern society often celebrates people who appear to be doing everything at once. They answer emails during meetings. They reply to messages while eating lunch. They listen to podcasts while scrolling through social media. They watch television while working on a laptop, with a phone resting beside them just in case another notification appears. To many people, this looks like efficiency. It looks like productivity. It looks like success. But appearances can be deceiving. Busy is not productive. Repeat that until it changes the way you work. Busy is not productive. There is a difference between moving quickly and moving effectively. A person can spend 12 hours jumping from task to task and accomplish less than someone who spends 3 uninterrupted hours doing meaningful work. The first person feels exhausted. The second person finishes with energy still remaining. The difference is not effort. The difference is attention. Your brain works best when it is allowed to stay with one problem long enough to understand it completely. Every time you force it to abandon that problem and switch to something else, it must rebuild its concentration from the beginning. Imagine trying to read an important book while someone interrupts you every 3 minutes. Imagine trying to solve a complex puzzle while another person keeps removing pieces from the table. Imagine trying to have a meaningful conversation while someone constantly whispers another sentence into your ear. You would become frustrated. Not because you lack intelligence, because your brain cannot perform at its highest level under constant interruption. That is exactly how millions of people live every single day. They don't realize that their greatest obstacle is not the difficulty of their work. It is the frequency of their interruptions. You have a choice. You can continue believing that constant switching is normal, or you can begin protecting your concentration like the valuable resource it truly is. That's the key. Every time you switch your attention, your brain pays a hidden cost. Scientists often describe this as a switching cost, but you don't need scientific terminology to understand it. You have experienced it yourself. You're writing an important report. Your phone buzzes. You check one message. 30 seconds later, you return to your work. But something feels different. Your mind isn't fully there anymore. You reread the previous paragraph because you've forgotten where you were. You hesitate. You search for the thought you just had. It takes several minutes before you feel focused again. Now imagine repeating that process 20 times a day, or 50, or 100. Each interruption seems small. Together, they become enormous. Every interruption steals momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in productive work. Once your mind becomes fully engaged, ideas begin connecting naturally. Problems become easier to solve. Creativity increases. Decisions become clearer. Difficult work begins to feel almost effortless. But momentum is fragile. It takes time to build. It disappears quickly. Every interruption steals momentum. That isn't simply a motivational phrase. It is the reality of how your mind operates. Most people underestimate the damage because interruptions rarely arrive one at a time. They arrive in waves: a text message, an email, a notification from social media, a breaking news alert, a coworker asking a quick question, a glance at the weather, a recommendation video, a calendar reminder. Individually, none of these seem serious. Collectively, they destroy the conditions required for deep thinking. Your brain spends the entire day restarting. Imagine driving a car where someone forces you to stop every few hundred meters. Eventually, you reach your destination. But the journey takes far longer than necessary. It consumes more fuel. It creates more frustration. Your workday functions the same way. Constant stopping creates invisible exhaustion. This explains something many people misunderstand. Mental fatigue is not caused only by hard work. Often, it is caused by fragmented work. There is a reason you sometimes feel completely drained after a day spent answering messages, attending meetings, checking emails, and responding to notifications, even though you never completed anything truly important. Your brain wasn't tired because it solved difficult problems. It was tired because it never stopped changing direction. Busy is not productive. The modern world rewards responsiveness. It praises people who answer immediately, who reply within seconds, who are always available. But availability is not achievement. If you are available to everyone, you eventually become unavailable to yourself. Think about social media for a moment. Its business model depends on one simple goal: keeping your attention for as long as possible. Every swipe promises something new. Every refresh offers another possibility. Your brain begins anticipating the next piece of information before fully processing the current one. Over time, novelty becomes addictive. Stillness begins to feel uncomfortable. Silence begins to feel empty. Deep work begins to feel impossible. But the problem isn't that your brain has become weaker. The problem is that it has been trained to expect interruption. Training created the habit. Training can also reverse it. You have a choice. You can continue strengthening distraction, or you can begin strengthening focus. Every interruption steals momentum. Consider your email inbox. Many people check email dozens of times each day, not because every message is urgent, because uncertainty creates curiosity. What if something important arrived? Most of the time, nothing truly important has changed. Yet every visit interrupts whatever meaningful work was already happening. Notifications operate the same way. They convince you that someone else's priorities deserve immediate attention. Sometimes they do. Most of the time, they don't. Learning to tell the difference is one of the greatest productivity skills you will ever develop. It's not about ignoring responsibility. It's about deciding when responsibility deserves your full attention. You don't need their permission to protect your thinking. You don't need constant validation that you're working. You don't need to appear busy. You need results. That's the discipline. It's not about responding faster. It's about thinking better. That requires another resource many people never consider: mental bandwidth. Imagine your attention as a bridge. Every thought, decision, conversation, worry, notification, and unfinished task adds more weight. Eventually, the bridge becomes overloaded. Not because one task was too heavy, because too many small things accumulated at once. Your mental bandwidth works exactly the same way. Every unnecessary commitment occupies space. Every unresolved decision consumes energy. Every open browser tab asks for attention. Every unfinished conversation remains somewhere in your mind. The result is invisible overload. You feel scattered, not because you're incapable, because your mind has been carrying too much for too long. Respect your attention the way an athlete respects physical energy. An elite marathon runner doesn't sprint everywhere simply because running is possible. They conserve energy for the moments that matter. You must do the same with your mind. Don't waste concentration on arguments that don't matter. Don't spend precious attention on information you cannot control. Don't give your best thinking to endless scrolling. Save it for meaningful work. Save it for meaningful relationships. Save it for building the future you actually want. Attention is a limited resource. Spend it deliberately. Guard what guards your future. As this audiobook continues, you will discover practical systems for strengthening focus, eliminating distractions, and reclaiming control over your attention. But none of those systems will work unless you first accept one simple truth. Your mind is not a machine designed for endless stimulation. It is a powerful instrument that performs best when given clarity, purpose, and space. Space to think. Space to reflect. Space to create. Space to become. Never feel guilty for protecting that space. It is not selfish. It is necessary. Because the greatest ideas rarely appear in noise. They appear in moments of uninterrupted thought. Remember that every time the world demands another piece of your attention, every interruption steals momentum. Busy is not productive. Protect your mental bandwidth. Because in the end, your brain deserves silence. Now that you understand why constant noise weakens your thinking, it's time to remove the unnecessary burdens competing for your attention. Chapter 3. Eliminate. Before you optimize. Most people have the wrong question. They ask, how can I become more productive? But that isn't the question that changes lives. The better question is this: what should I stop doing? That single question separates people who are constantly overwhelmed from people who consistently accomplish meaningful work. We live in a culture obsessed with optimization. There are endless books about productivity systems, countless videos about morning routines, new applications designed to organize your calendar, sophisticated methods for managing tasks, complex frameworks promising to help you accomplish more. Some of these tools are useful. Many are not, but almost all of them overlook one uncomfortable truth. You cannot organize your way out of unnecessary complexity. You cannot optimize a life that is overloaded. Before you improve your system, you must reduce your burden. That's the key. Most productivity problems are actually elimination problems. Imagine trying to make a sinking boat move faster. You could install a larger engine. You could improve the sails. You could hire a better captain. None of it matters if the boat continues filling with water. The first priority is obvious. Remove what is sinking the boat. Your life works the same way. Many people spend years searching for better techniques while ignoring the dozens of unnecessary commitments quietly draining their energy. They don't need another planner. They need fewer distractions. They don't need another time management strategy. They need fewer demands competing for their attention. They don't need more discipline. They need less noise. Less creates more. Repeat that until it becomes part of your thinking. Less creates more. The modern world encourages accumulation. More information. More opportunities. More entertainment. More responsibilities. More possessions. More notifications. More conversations. More goals. More commitments. It rarely encourages subtraction. Yet subtraction is often where transformation begins. Every unnecessary responsibility occupies space inside your mind. Every commitment demands decisions. Every decision consumes attention. Eventually, you reach a point where your schedule is full, but your progress is empty. You feel busy all day, yet nothing truly important moves forward. Why? Because you're carrying too much. You have a choice. You can continue adding, or you can begin eliminating. That's where freedom begins. Think about a sculptor standing in front of a massive block of marble. The masterpiece is not created by adding more stone. It is created by removing everything that does not belong. Your life deserves the same approach. Success is often subtraction. Remove what distracts. Remove what delays. Remove what drains. The result is clarity. Less creates more. Now consider your digital life. How many applications compete for your attention every day? How many browser tabs remain open because you might need them later? How many newsletters arrive in your inbox that you never actually read? How many group chats interrupt your thinking without improving your life? Digital clutter is still clutter. In fact, it may be more dangerous because it is invisible. A cluttered desk reminds you to clean it. A cluttered mind quietly follows you everywhere. Look at your phone honestly. How many icons exist simply because deleting them feels unnecessary? How many notifications appear every day that add no real value? How many times do you unlock your device without a specific purpose? One moment you intended to check the weather. 20 minutes later, you're watching videos you never planned to see. The technology is not the enemy. Unconscious use is. Every unnecessary click carries an invisible cost. Every unnecessary notification divides your attention. Every unnecessary application quietly asks for a piece of your mind. Guard what guards your future. That includes your digital environment. Then consider meetings. Many organizations suffer from a strange habit. Whenever uncertainty appears, another meeting is scheduled. People gather. They discuss. They repeat ideas. They postpone decisions. Hours disappear. Real work waits. Not every meeting is useless, but many exist because saying, "Let's meet," feels easier than making a decision. Successful people understand something different. Time spent talking about work is not the same as time spent doing work. If a conversation can become a message, make it a message. If a message can become a decision, make the decision. Protect long periods of uninterrupted thinking. Because meaningful work rarely happens inside endless discussions. Busy is not productive. The same principle applies to obligations. Many people carry responsibilities they accepted years ago. They continue saying yes because saying no feels uncomfortable. They volunteer for projects they don't believe in. They attend events they don't enjoy. They maintain habits that no longer serve them. Eventually, their calendar belongs to everyone except themselves. You don't need their permission to reclaim your time. Every yes has a cost. When you say yes to something unnecessary, you automatically say no to something important. That important thing might be your health, your family, your creativity, your learning, your deepest work. People often think successful individuals accomplish more because they accept more opportunities. The opposite is usually true. Successful people say no far more often than average people. Not because they dislike helping others, not because they lack ambition, because they understand the mathematics of attention. Every commitment occupies space. Every obligation requires energy. Every promise deserves focus. If everything becomes important, nothing remains important. That's the key. Imagine two entrepreneurs. The first accepts every invitation, every networking event, every interview, every collaboration, every meeting, every opportunity. They spend every day moving from one activity to another. They feel successful because their schedule is full. The second entrepreneur declines most invitations. They carefully select the few opportunities aligned with their long-term vision. Their calendar contains empty space. To outsiders, they appear less busy. But during those quiet hours, they build products. Solve difficult problems. Think deeply. Create lasting value. Years later, the difference becomes obvious. One accumulated activity. The other accumulated results. Results come from focus. Focus requires elimination. Less creates more. Information overload presents another challenge. Never before in history have humans had access to so much knowledge. Yet never before have so many struggled to think clearly. Knowledge is valuable. Consumption without application is not. Some people spend years reading about success while never practicing success. They know dozens of productivity methods. They implement none of them. They consume. 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 Meanwhile, someone else reads one useful idea, applies it consistently, builds an entirely different life. Information is only valuable when transformed into action. It's not about learning more, it's about applying more. Every article you never use, every video you never implement, every opinion you never needed. These all occupy mental space. Protect your bandwidth. Protect your attention. Protect your future. Now imagine your life as a garden. Every unnecessary obligation is a weed. Every distraction competes for sunlight. Every meaningless commitment steals nutrients from something valuable. Would you fertilize the weeds? Of course not. You remove them, not because you hate weeds, because you love the flowers. Your attention deserves the same wisdom. Stop feeding what doesn't matter. Start strengthening what does. This requires courage, because elimination often feels uncomfortable before it feels liberating. You may disappoint people. You may miss certain opportunities. You may experience moments of uncertainty. But remember this: every meaningful life is built through intentional sacrifice. You cannot protect everything. You cannot pursue everything. You cannot become everything. You have a choice. Choose what deserves your attention. Then eliminate what doesn't. As you continue doing this, something remarkable happens. Life begins to feel lighter. Decisions become easier. Your calendar becomes calmer. Your thoughts become clearer. Work becomes deeper. Progress becomes faster. Not because you discovered a secret productivity hack, because you finally stopped carrying unnecessary weight. That's transformation. That's discipline. And eventually, it becomes your identity. You become someone who naturally protects what matters. Someone who instinctively asks, "Does this deserve my attention?" Someone who understands that every unnecessary commitment weakens every meaningful one. Remember these words. Less creates more. Repeat them whenever you're tempted to add another obligation. Repeat them whenever your schedule begins to overflow. Repeat them whenever the world tells you that more is always better, because it isn't. The truth is far simpler. Focus grows where clutter disappears. Carry that truth into the next chapter, where we stop eliminating distractions around us and begin strengthening the ability to stay fully engaged with one task at a time. Chapter 4. Train your mind to stay with one thing. There is a quiet skill that separates exceptional people from everyone else. It is not intelligence. It is not creativity. It is not confidence. It is the ability to stay with one thing long after everyone else has become distracted. That ability has become increasingly rare, not because people are less capable than previous generations, but because they have trained themselves to leave before the real work begins. A difficult paragraph appears. They check their phone. A challenging problem refuses to yield an answer. They open another browser tab. A project becomes uncomfortable. They switch to something easier. Day after day, this pattern repeats until distraction becomes automatic. Then people wonder why they struggle to make meaningful progress. The answer is simple. They never stay with one thing long enough. You have a choice. You can continue strengthening the habit of leaving, or you can begin strengthening the habit of staying. That's the key. Stay with it. Those 3 words are more powerful than they first appear. Stay with it. Every time your mind wants to escape, stay with it. Every time boredom arrives, stay with it. Every time the work becomes difficult, stay with it. Because growth almost always begins at the exact moment your mind wants to quit. Most people believe concentration is something you either have or you don't. That belief is false. Concentration is trained. Just as a muscle becomes stronger through repeated resistance, your attention becomes stronger every time you resist the impulse to switch tasks. Think about someone beginning strength training. On the first day, lifting a heavy weight feels almost impossible. The muscles tremble. The body struggles. But week after week, something changes. The weight remains the same. The person becomes stronger. Focus works exactly the same way. The first uninterrupted 20 minutes may feel uncomfortable. Your thoughts wander. Your hand reaches for your phone without thinking. Your mind searches for easier stimulation. That discomfort does not mean you're failing. It means you are training. Stay with it. Every minute you remain focused is another repetition for your attention. Every distraction you resist strengthens your mental discipline. Every urge you ignore builds another layer of self-control. One decision seems insignificant. Thousands of decisions transform your identity. That's how deep focus is built. Not through motivation, through repetition. It's not about talent. It's about discipline. Many people proudly claim they are excellent multitaskers, but what they call multitasking is usually rapid task switching. The brain is not performing multiple complex activities simultaneously. It is jumping back and forth between them. Each jump carries a cost. Imagine a chef preparing 5 different meals at the same time. Every few seconds, they leave one stove to check another. They stir one pot. Then chop vegetables. Then answer a phone call. Then return to the oven. Eventually, every meal takes longer. Mistakes become more common. Quality declines. Now imagine another chef. One meal. Complete attention. Every ingredient prepared carefully. Every step completed deliberately. The kitchen appears calmer. The results are better. The second chef understands something important. Speed without focus creates chaos. Focus creates speed. Busy is not productive. Stay with it. Now consider reading a difficult book. Many people read one page, then check a notification, read another page, then respond to a message. After 20 minutes, they cannot remember what they just read. Not because the material was difficult, because their attention never remained long enough to understand it. Understanding requires continuity. Insight requires continuity. Mastery requires continuity. Every interruption breaks that continuity. Every interruption steals momentum. The person who remains with one task develops something incredibly valuable: mental depth. While others skim the surface of dozens of ideas, they dive deeply into one. That depth becomes expertise. Expertise becomes opportunity. Opportunity becomes success. The world often rewards depth far more than variety. A surgeon does not become exceptional by practicing 50 specialties at once. A pianist does not master an instrument by changing songs every 30 seconds. An author does not finish a book by writing one paragraph before checking social media. Mastery always demands sustained attention. You have a choice: stay on the surface or go deeper. That's the key. Now let us introduce one of the most transformative practices you can build. Deep work. Deep work is more than uninterrupted work. It is deliberate concentration on one meaningful task without allowing anything else to compete for your attention. No notifications, no email, no social media, no unnecessary conversations, no constant switching. Only one objective: complete engagement. For many people, even 30 minutes of true deep work feels surprisingly difficult, not because the work is impossible, because distraction has become habitual. The mind expects novelty. It expects interruption. It expects entertainment. Deep work retrains those expectations. Begin simply. Choose one important task. Set a specific period of time. Perhaps 30 minutes, perhaps 45. Place your phone somewhere you cannot easily reach. Close unnecessary tabs. Turn off notifications. Then begin. Your only responsibility is to remain with the task, not to finish perfectly, not to feel inspired. Simply remain present. Stay with it. At first, your mind will rebel. You'll suddenly remember emails you forgot to send. You'll wonder what messages might be waiting. You'll think of random errands that suddenly seem urgent. Do not follow those thoughts. Notice them. Then return. Again, and again, and again. That is the workout. Every return strengthens concentration. Every return teaches your brain that it no longer controls you. You control it. That's freedom. One of the greatest enemies of deep work is the belief that every urge deserves immediate action. It doesn't. An urge is not a command. A notification is not an emergency. A curiosity is not a priority. You don't need their permission to ignore distractions. You don't need to satisfy every impulse. You need to decide what matters. Then protect it. Imagine planting a tree. Would you dig it up every 10 minutes to check whether the roots are growing? Of course not. You allow time to do its work. Concentration grows the same way. It requires patience. It requires trust. It requires uninterrupted time beneath the surface before visible results appear. Too many people quit just before their thinking becomes truly valuable. Stay with it. There is another habit that quietly destroys progress. Starting again, starting something new. Many people love beginnings, new notebooks, new goals, new projects, new systems, new ideas. Beginnings create excitement. Finishing creates transformation. There is a profound difference. A person who starts 100 books learns less than someone who finishes 10. A person who launches 20 unfinished projects builds less than someone who completes 3 meaningful ones. Completion changes lives. Ideas alone do not. You must become someone who finishes before moving on. Notice the word become. This is no longer about productivity. It is about identity. Every completed task teaches your brain something important. I finish what I begin. Every time you abandon meaningful work for unnecessary distraction, you teach the opposite lesson. I leave when things become difficult. Identity grows from repeated behavior. Choose carefully what you repeat. It's not about perfection. It's about completion. Stay with it. When frustration appears, stay with it. When boredom appears, stay with it. When progress feels slow, stay with it. Most breakthroughs happen after the moment when average people quit. Remember that. The greatest opportunities often hide behind ordinary persistence. As you practice monotasking, something remarkable begins to happen. Your thoughts become calmer. Your decisions become clearer. Your work becomes higher in quality. Time feels different. Hours once lost to distraction suddenly produce meaningful results, not because the world became quieter, because you became stronger. You learned the discipline of remaining where your attention belongs. Carry this lesson with you every day. When the world invites you to scatter your energy, remember the principle that will define the rest of this audiobook. 1 task. Full attention. Master that principle, and you will accomplish what distracted people only imagine. Now that you have trained yourself to stay with one thing, the next challenge is protecting that focus from everything competing to steal it. Chapter 5. Protect your attention. Like your life depends on it. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning with a bank account that receives a fresh deposit. Not money. Attention. A limited amount. Enough to solve difficult problems. Enough to learn new skills. Enough to build meaningful relationships. Enough to create a better future. But here's the condition. Every unnecessary distraction automatically withdraws from that account. Every notification. Every meaningless conversation. Every hour spent scrolling. Every argument that changes nothing. Every habit of reacting instead of choosing. The account becomes smaller. By the end of the day, you have spent almost everything. Now ask yourself one question. Would you spend money as carelessly as you spend attention? Most people wouldn't. They compare prices before making purchases. They think carefully before investing. They protect their savings. Yet they give away attention, the resource that creates every future success, without hesitation. That's the contradiction. Attention is more valuable than money. Money lost today can be earned again. An hour of attention lost today is gone forever. You cannot earn back yesterday afternoon. You cannot recover last week's wasted evenings. You cannot purchase another version of this moment. Every distraction is an expensive withdrawal. Remember those words. Every distraction is an expensive withdrawal. You have a choice. Spend your attention deliberately, or allow the world to spend it for you. That's the key. Think about how carefully successful investors protect their capital. They don't place every dollar into random opportunities. They ask questions. Will this investment grow? What is the risk? Is this worth the cost? You should treat your attention with the same discipline. Before opening another application, ask yourself, is this worth investing my attention? Before entering another argument, ask, will this improve my life? Before saying yes to another obligation, ask, does this deserve my best thinking? These questions seem small, but small questions create large changes, because attention compounds exactly the way money does. One focused hour today improves tomorrow. Tomorrow improves next week. Next week strengthens next year. Eventually, those small investments become an extraordinary life. The opposite is also true. Small distractions compound. 5 unnecessary minutes become 50. 50 become 500. Years disappear one interruption at a time. Every distraction is an expensive withdrawal. Protect your attention. Now let's look beyond your habits and examine something even more powerful. Your environment. Many people believe discipline begins inside the mind. Sometimes it does. But often, discipline begins with the room around you. Walk into a library. Without anyone speaking, you naturally lower your voice. Walk into a crowded stadium. Your energy changes immediately. Walk into a peaceful garden. Your breathing slows. The environment quietly shapes behavior before conscious decisions are made. That principle affects your focus every single day. Look around your workspace. What is competing for your attention? A phone lying beside your keyboard. Multiple screens displaying unrelated information. Stacks of unfinished papers. Dozens of browser tabs waiting to be clicked. Constant background television. Each object sends a silent message. Look at me. Don't forget me. Check me next. Individually, these distractions seem harmless. Together, they become a battlefield. You're asking your brain to concentrate while surrounding it with invitations to do the opposite. Then you wonder why focus feels difficult. Your environment is answering the question before you begin. Protect your attention. Imagine trying to eat healthy while your kitchen is filled with candy. Every decision becomes harder. Now imagine the candy disappears. Suddenly, discipline requires less effort. The environment changed. Behavior followed. Focus works exactly the same way. If your phone remains within reach during deep work, you're forcing yourself to win hundreds of unnecessary battles. Move the phone into another room. Now those battles disappear. The temptation becomes weaker because the environment has changed. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. Strong people do not rely only on willpower. They build environments where good decisions become easier. That's the discipline. It's not about becoming stronger than every temptation. It's about reducing unnecessary temptations. Now think about your digital environment. Many people carefully organize their homes. Their desks are clean. Their closets are orderly. Yet their computers tell a different story. 40 browser tabs remain open. Hundreds of unread emails, constant notification badges, applications launching automatically, desktop icons covering every available space. Their digital world mirrors mental chaos. Every open tab represents unfinished thinking. Every notification badge asks for attention. Every unnecessary application quietly consumes mental bandwidth. You don't always notice it, but your brain does. Every time your eyes scan unnecessary information, your attention pays a small price. Protect your attention. Consider something as simple as notifications. Most people accept every alert by default. Every message creates a sound. Every email flashes across the screen. Every social media update demands immediate awareness. Ask yourself honestly, how many of those notifications truly deserve instant attention? Very few. Most are conveniences disguised as emergencies. The world trains you to believe everything is urgent. Reality says otherwise. Urgent is rare. Important is different. Learn the difference. Because if everything interrupts you, nothing receives your full attention. You don't need their permission to become unavailable for meaningless interruptions. You have permission to think. You have permission to create. You have permission to disappear for an hour while doing important work. That is not laziness. That is leadership. Protect your attention. Routines matter just as much as environments. Your brain loves patterns. When you repeatedly work in the same place, at the same time, following the same preparation, concentration begins arriving automatically. Imagine walking into your workspace every morning. You place your phone in a drawer. You close unnecessary applications. You clear your desk. You write today's most important task on a piece of paper. You take one deep breath. Then you begin. Repeat this every day. Soon, your brain recognizes the ritual. This is the time to focus. No motivation required. No internal debate. The routine becomes a signal. Professional athletes understand this. Musicians understand this. Writers understand this. Before performance comes preparation. Preparation tells the mind what is about to happen. Create rituals that prepare you for focus, not for distraction. Protect your attention. Boundaries are another form of protection. Many people fear disappointing others, so they answer every message immediately, accept every meeting, respond to every request. Eventually, they become available to everyone except themselves. Boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They determine what enters your life and what stays outside. Without boundaries, Every person's priorities become your priorities. With boundaries, your attention belongs where it matters most. You have a choice. Say yes to everything, or say yes to what truly matters. Every meaningful yes requires many courageous no's. Remember that. The people you admire are not simply better at focusing. They are better at protecting focus. That difference changes everything. Now imagine two architects. One carefully designs every detail before construction begins. The other allows random people to add rooms whenever they feel like it. Years later, one building stands strong. The other becomes confusing, unstable, and inefficient. Your attention follows the same principle. If you do not design your environment intentionally, the world will design it for you. Advertisements will shape it. Algorithms will shape it. Notifications will shape it. Other people's priorities will shape it. You become a victim of whatever demands your attention next, but you're capable of something better. Become the architect. Design your mornings. Design your workspace. Design your routines. Design your digital life. Design your boundaries. Do not wait for a perfect environment to appear. Create one. That's the key. It's not about hoping distractions disappear. It's about making them increasingly difficult to reach. Every intentional change strengthens your ability to think deeply. Every protected hour becomes another investment in your future. Remember the lesson from the beginning of this chapter. Your attention is your wealth. Spend it carefully. Protect it relentlessly. Invest it wisely. Because every unnecessary distraction remains an expensive withdrawal from the only account that truly determines your future. Repeat these words until they become your instinct. Protect your attention. Protect it when the phone rings. Protect it when the world becomes noisy. Protect it when comfort invites you to escape meaningful work. Protect it because no one else will. And once you learn to guard your attention with the same seriousness that you guard your most valuable possessions, you unlock a deeper truth. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs do not happen while doing more. They happen while doing nothing at all. That is where we go next. Chapter 6. Boredom is where greatness begins. There is a moment that most people never survive. Not because it is dangerous, not because it is painful, but because it feels uncomfortable. It is the moment when nothing exciting is happening. No notification appears. No conversation demands attention. No music fills the silence. No video begins playing automatically. Just you, your thoughts, and stillness. For many people, that moment lasts only a few seconds before they reach for a screen. Not because they need information, because they have forgotten how to experience boredom. The modern world has convinced us that every empty moment should be filled. Waiting in line? Check your phone. Riding an elevator? Scroll. Sitting quietly? Watch something. Standing in traffic? Listen to something. Eating alone? Open another app. Silence has become an emergency. Boredom has become something to escape. But what if boredom is not the enemy? What if boredom is the doorway? You have a choice. You can escape every uncomfortable moment, or you can remain long enough for something extraordinary to happen. That's the key. Stay long enough. Most people misunderstand boredom. They think boredom means nothing is happening. The truth is exactly the opposite. Boredom is often the moment when your brain begins transitioning from consuming to creating. When constant stimulation disappears, your mind initially protests. It asks for entertainment. It searches for novelty. It demands another distraction. If you immediately satisfy that demand, your brain never learns anything new. But if you remain still, if you resist the urge, something begins to change. Your thoughts slow down. The mental noise begins to fade. Ideas that were buried beneath endless stimulation begin rising to the surface. Connections appear. Questions become clearer. Solutions emerge. Stay long enough. The breakthrough comes later. Think about a glass of muddy water. If someone keeps shaking the glass, the water remains cloudy. Nothing settles. Nothing becomes clear. But place the glass on a table and leave it alone. Slowly, the mud sinks. The water clears. Your mind works the same way. Constant stimulation keeps your thoughts in motion. Silence allows them to settle. Clarity requires stillness. Yet stillness feels uncomfortable because most people have trained themselves to fear it. Not intentionally. Repeatedly, every time they experience even a brief moment of boredom, they eliminate it immediately. The brain learns an important lesson. Boredom must be avoided. Eventually, even 5 minutes without stimulation feels unbearable. But boredom is not a weakness. It is training. Just as lifting heavy weights strengthens muscles, remaining present during boredom strengthens attention. It teaches your brain that it does not need constant entertainment to remain content. That is freedom. Stay long enough. Now consider the lives of people who produce extraordinary work. A novelist sits alone for hours with nothing but words. No applause, no excitement, just page after page. A scientist spends months studying a single problem. Many experiments fail. Progress appears invisible. Still, they continue. An athlete repeats the same movement thousands of times. Again, again, again. Most repetitions are not exciting. They are necessary. An entrepreneur spends years improving a product before the world notices it. Long nights, quiet mornings, countless decisions made without recognition. None of these people succeed because they constantly seek stimulation. They succeed because they have learned to remain where others leave. Stay long enough. The breakthrough comes later. Notice something else. The world's greatest creators often describe the same experience. Their best ideas rarely arrive during distraction. They arrive while walking, while sitting quietly, while taking a shower, while staring out a window, during moments when the mind is finally allowed to breathe. This surprises many people. They assume creativity comes from consuming more information. Often it comes from creating space. Space allows hidden connections to emerge. Imagine trying to hear a whisper inside a room filled with shouting. Impossible. Your ideas are often whispers. Endless stimulation is the shouting. Silence allows the whisper to become audible. That's the key. Many people quit just before this transformation begins. They sit down to work. 5 minutes later, the task feels difficult. 10 minutes later, boredom appears. 15 minutes later, they open social media. They believe the discomfort means they aren't focused today. It doesn't. The discomfort is the entrance fee. Every meaningful achievement asks you to pay that fee. Every person who creates remarkable work has learned the same lesson. Do not leave during the uncomfortable beginning. Stay long enough. Think about learning a musical instrument. The first practice session is awkward. The sounds are imperfect. Progress feels painfully slow. If you quit because it feels uncomfortable, mastery never arrives. The same is true for concentration. The first minutes of deep work often feel restless. Your attention wanders. Your thoughts resist. Your brain searches for easier rewards. That is normal. Do not mistake discomfort for failure. Discomfort is adaptation. Every minute you remain strengthens your capacity to focus tomorrow. The breakthrough comes later. The modern world offers instant rewards everywhere. One click delivers entertainment. One swipe reveals something new. One notification provides another tiny burst of excitement. Your brain begins expecting immediate satisfaction. Over time, patience weakens. Persistence weakens. Delayed gratification weakens. This creates a dangerous habit. If results are not immediate, people assume the effort is not worthwhile. But life rarely rewards immediate effort immediately. The greatest rewards grow slowly. A healthy body, a successful business, deep relationships, mastery of a skill, financial independence, wisdom. None of these arrive overnight. Why should deep focus be different? Stay long enough. You don't need another source of entertainment. You need greater tolerance for temporary discomfort. It's not about eliminating boredom. It's about transforming your relationship with it. Instead of asking, "How can I escape this feeling?" ask, "What is this feeling trying to teach me?" Perhaps it is teaching patience, perhaps discipline, perhaps resilience, perhaps creativity. Every uncomfortable moment contains an opportunity that distraction cannot provide. You have a choice. Reach for your phone, or remain with your thoughts. Every time you choose stillness, you strengthen something invisible. Your ability to direct your own mind. That is one of the rarest skills in the modern world. Protect it. Train it. Value it. Imagine planting a seed beneath the soil. For days, nothing appears. Someone impatient digs it up every morning to check its progress. Eventually, the seed dies. Another person waters it quietly, waits patiently, trusts the process. Weeks later, growth finally becomes visible. Focus develops exactly the same way. Your first quiet session may not produce brilliant ideas, neither may your second, or your third, but your brain is changing beneath the surface. Stay long enough. The breakthrough comes later. This principle applies far beyond work. It applies to conversations, to relationships, to solving difficult problems, to understanding yourself. Some answers cannot be forced. They appear only after enough silence has been allowed to exist. Stop fearing those silent moments. Welcome them. Protect them. Because they contain possibilities that noise can never reveal. Remember this whenever the urge for instant entertainment appears. You're not resisting pleasure. You're investing in clarity. You're investing in depth. You're investing in the future version of yourself who can accomplish what distracted people never will. The world will continue offering endless stimulation. It profits when you cannot tolerate stillness. Do not become dependent on constant excitement. Become someone who is comfortable sitting with difficult work, comfortable with delayed rewards, comfortable with silence. That identity will separate you from the crowd. Repeat these words until they become part of your character. Stay long enough. When the work feels slow, stay long enough. When your mind becomes restless, stay long enough. When boredom whispers that you should quit, stay long enough. Because the greatest ideas, the deepest insights, the strongest discipline, and the most meaningful transformation almost always arrive after the moment when everyone else has already left. The breakthrough comes later. Now that you have learned to embrace silence instead of escaping it, the next step is to make deep focus so consistent that it no longer depends on motivation. Chapter 7. Build rituals that make focus automatic. There is a lie that keeps millions of people trapped. It sounds encouraging. It sounds inspiring. It sounds harmless. But it quietly destroys consistency. The lie is this: you just need more motivation. No, you need fewer decisions. Motivation is unpredictable. Some mornings you wake up energized. Other mornings you don't. Some days you feel unstoppable. Other days, even simple tasks feel heavy. If your ability to focus depends on how you feel, then your future depends on emotions that constantly change. That is a dangerous foundation. Successful people understand something different. They do not build their lives on motivation. They build their lives on rituals. That's the key. Consistency beats motivation. Read those words again. Consistency beats motivation. Motivation may help you begin. Consistency is what carries you across the finish line. Think about brushing your teeth. You probably don't wake up every morning feeling inspired to brush them. You don't watch motivational videos first. You don't wait until you feel emotionally ready. You simply do it. The action has become automatic. Imagine if your most important work reached that same level of consistency. Imagine beginning deep work without negotiating with yourself. Imagine sitting down to focus because that is simply what you do. That is the power of rituals. They remove unnecessary thinking. They conserve mental energy. They transform discipline into habit. You have a choice. Continue negotiating with yourself every day, or create routines that eliminate the negotiation entirely. That's the discipline. Most people waste enormous amounts of mental energy asking the same questions every morning. Should I work now? Should I exercise later? Should I check my email first? Maybe I'll start after one more cup of coffee. Maybe tomorrow will be better. Every decision consumes attention. Every hesitation weakens momentum. Great performers remove these conversations. They decide once, then they repeat. That's why consistency beats motivation. Consider the lives of elite athletes. They don't wake up asking whether they feel like training. Training is already scheduled. The decision has been made. Professional musicians don't wait for inspiration before practicing scales. Pilots don't skip safety checklists because they aren't in the mood. Surgeons don't perform operations differently every day, depending on their emotions. Excellence demands reliability. Reliability requires routine. The same principle applies to focus. If concentration matters to you, stop treating it like an occasional event. Make it a daily ritual. Systems beat willpower. Many people misunderstand willpower. They imagine mentally strong people constantly resisting temptation, hour after hour, decision after decision. Reality is very different. Mentally disciplined people often experience fewer temptations because they have designed systems that prevent unnecessary choices. Imagine two people trying to eat healthier. The first keeps unhealthy snacks on the kitchen table. Every hour becomes another battle. The second never buys those snacks. The battle never begins. Who demonstrates greater discipline? Many would say the first. In reality, the second demonstrates greater wisdom. They removed the decision. Focus follows the same rule. If your phone sits beside you while working, you repeatedly fight the temptation to check it. If the phone remains in another room, your environment has already solved part of the problem. Systems beat willpower. Now let's build one of the most powerful rituals you can create. The morning ritual. How you begin your day often determines how you spend it. If the first thing you do every morning is open social media, your brain receives an immediate message. React before you create. Other people's priorities become your priorities. Other people's opinions become your mental environment. Other people's urgency replaces your own. Now imagine another beginning. You wake up. You avoid your phone. You drink water. You stretch. You sit quietly for a few minutes. You review your most important objective. Then you begin your first meaningful task before allowing the outside world to interrupt you. Notice what has changed. You're leading your attention instead of surrendering it. The first hour belongs to your future. Protect it. You don't need an elaborate 3-hour morning routine. You need consistency. Even a simple ritual repeated every day becomes extraordinarily powerful. Wake up. Prepare your space. Review your priorities. Begin. Repeat tomorrow. That's how identities are built. The next ritual is equally important. Work blocks. Many people approach work without structure. They drift from one task to another. They answer messages whenever they arrive. They interrupt themselves constantly. By the end of the day, they feel exhausted, but strangely unaccomplished. A focused person works differently. They divide the day into intentional blocks. One block for deep thinking. One block for communication. One block for meetings. One block for learning. During each block, one category receives complete attention. Nothing else. No switching. No multitasking. No reacting. One task. Full attention. This approach creates something valuable. Predictability. Your brain begins recognizing certain hours as periods for concentration. Over time, entering focus requires less effort because the routine has become familiar. Systems beat willpower. There is another ritual that many people ignore. The shutdown ritual. Most people finish work accidentally. They answer one final email. Read one more article. Respond to another message. Eventually, they stop because they are exhausted, not because they are finished. Then work follows them home. Their minds continue solving problems during dinner, during conversations, during sleep. Their attention never truly rests. A shutdown ritual creates a boundary. Review completed work. Write tomorrow's priorities. Close your computer. Leave your workspace. Mentally release the day. This simple practice tells your brain something important. The workday is complete. Rest becomes deeper. Recovery becomes stronger. Tomorrow's focus improves. Remember this. Recovery is not separate from productivity. Recovery makes productivity possible. Now consider the power of environmental cues. Every habit begins with a signal. The smell of coffee, the sound of an alarm, the sight of your desk. These small details quietly shape behavior. Imagine lighting the same desk lamp before every deep work session. Eventually, your brain associates that light with concentration. Imagine putting on noise-canceling headphones only when doing important work. Soon, your mind begins focusing the moment you wear them. Imagine always writing today's primary objective on paper before opening your computer. The paper becomes a signal. The signal begins the routine. These cues seem insignificant. They are not. Small signals repeated consistently create powerful habits. This brings us to one of the simplest methods for building discipline. Habit stacking. Instead of creating an entirely new routine, attach the new behavior to one that already exists. After making coffee, begin your first work block. After brushing your teeth, review your daily priorities. After closing your laptop, write tomorrow's most important task. The existing habit becomes the trigger. The new habit follows automatically. Your brain loves sequences. Use that to your advantage. Do not depend on memory. Build chains of behavior. Soon, the routine performs itself. Systems beat willpower. Now think about identity. Many people say, "I am trying to become focused." There is hidden weakness in that sentence. Trying suggests uncertainty. Instead, say, "I am someone who protects my attention." I am someone who finishes what I begin. I am someone who works deeply every day. Identity changes behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. The cycle grows stronger over time. Focus is no longer something you occasionally practice. It becomes part of who you are. That transformation happens because something else changes. The number of daily decisions decreases. You no longer wonder when to work. You already know. You no longer debate whether to check your phone. You already have a rule. You no longer negotiate with distraction. The decision has already been made. Focus becomes easier when decisions become fewer. That's the key. Think of a river. A river flows powerfully because its banks keep the water moving in one direction. Without those banks, the water spreads everywhere. It becomes shallow, weak, directionless. Your rituals are the banks of your attention. They keep your mental energy flowing toward what matters. Without them, your attention spreads across dozens of distractions. Nothing receives enough depth. Nothing becomes extraordinary. You have a choice. Live each day by emotion, or live each day by design. One path produces inconsistency. The other produces mastery. Never underestimate the quiet power of ordinary routines. History remembers remarkable achievements. It rarely sees the ordinary mornings that created them. The finished book hides thousands of writing sessions. The championship hides years of repetitive practice. The successful business hides countless disciplined workdays. Extraordinary lives are built from ordinary rituals repeated without interruption. Repeat this until it becomes your philosophy. Consistency beats motivation. Systems beat willpower. Focus becomes easier when decisions become fewer. These are not simply productivity principles. They are a blueprint for freedom. Because once your routines carry the weight, your mind becomes free to do what it was created to do. Think deeply. Create boldly. Solve meaningful problems. Build a life that reflects your highest priorities. Now that your focus has become automatic, there is one final challenge before lasting mastery. You must learn to ignore everything that does not deserve your attention. Chapter 8. Learn to ignore. What doesn't matter? One of the greatest myths of the modern world is that success belongs to the person who knows the most. It doesn't. Success belongs to the person who knows what to ignore. That may sound strange. After all, we have been taught that more information leads to better decisions, more books, more podcasts, more articles, more opinions, more updates, more news, more opportunities, more choices. Surely, more must be better. But look carefully at the lives of people who consistently produce meaningful work. They are not consuming everything. They are filtering almost everything. That is the difference. The modern world rewards access to information. Extraordinary people reward themselves with selective attention. You have a choice. You can attempt to absorb everything, or you can deliberately protect your mind from what does not matter. That's the key. Your attention becomes powerful the moment it becomes selective. Imagine standing in the middle of a crowded city. Thousands of sounds surround you. Cars, conversations, music, construction, footsteps, birds. Your brain hears all of it, yet somehow you remain capable of speaking to the person standing beside you. How? Because your brain performs an extraordinary task. It filters. It decides what deserves attention and what should remain in the background. Without that ability, every moment would become overwhelming. Your life depends on selective attention. The problem is that many people no longer use this ability intentionally. Instead of deciding what deserves attention, they allow algorithms, advertisements, headlines, and notifications to decide for them. Every alert becomes important. Every opinion demands consideration. Every trend appears urgent. The result is mental overload, not because there is too much information, because there is too little filtering. That's why success often comes from ignoring more than consuming more. Think about a photographer using a camera. The lens cannot focus on everything at once. It chooses one subject. Everything else becomes beautifully blurred. That blur is not a mistake. It is what creates clarity. Your mind needs the same discipline. Everything cannot remain equally important. If everything demands your attention, nothing receives enough of it. That's the key. Clarity begins where distraction ends. Many people fear missing out. They worry that ignoring one opportunity might cause them to lose something valuable. So they say yes to almost everything. Every invitation, every collaboration, every new trend, every conversation, every possibility. Their calendar becomes crowded. Their mind becomes crowded. Eventually, their future becomes crowded with unfinished work. The irony is painful. In trying to avoid missing opportunities, they miss the ones that mattered most. You have a choice. You can chase every possibility, or you can commit deeply to a few meaningful ones. Great lives are rarely built through endless variety. They are built through focused commitment. Choose wisely. Now think about opinions. Never before in history have human beings been surrounded by so many voices. Every platform encourages people to express themselves. Everyone has advice. Everyone has criticism. Everyone has predictions. Everyone has certainty. If you try to satisfy every opinion, you will eventually lose your own direction. The people who achieve remarkable things understand a difficult truth. Criticism is unavoidable. Approval is temporary. Purpose is essential. You don't need everyone's agreement. You don't need their permission. You don't need to explain every decision. You need clarity, and clarity requires quiet. Imagine driving across the country while every passenger continuously grabs the steering wheel. One person says, "Turn left." Another says, "Turn right." Another tells you to stop. Someone else insists you should speed up. Eventually, the car goes nowhere. This is exactly what happens when you allow too many opinions to control your decisions. Listen carefully, learn humbly, then choose independently, because your future belongs to you, not to the loudest voice in the room. Choose wisely. Now let's talk about trends. Every week, there is something new demanding attention. A new productivity system. A new investment opportunity. A new business strategy. A new social media platform. A new controversy. A new emergency. The modern world constantly whispers the same message. This matters. Often, it doesn't. Many trends disappear as quickly as they arrive. The hours people invested chasing them never return. Meanwhile, timeless principles continue producing results. Discipline, focus, consistency, integrity, patience. These never become outdated. Do not confuse what is popular with what is valuable. Popularity changes. Principles endure. Not everything deserves your attention. One of the most dangerous forms of distraction is unnecessary information. People often consume information simply because it is available. They know the details of celebrity lives. They follow arguments that never affect them. They memorize statistics they will never use. They refresh the news every hour. Then they wonder why their minds feel crowded. Information without purpose becomes mental clutter. Ask yourself a simple question before consuming anything. Will this help me build the life I want? If the answer is no, perhaps it deserves less of your attention than you think. Remember, Every piece of information occupies space inside your mind. Guard that space carefully. Imagine carrying a backpack. Every unnecessary fact becomes another small stone. One stone feels harmless. 100 stones become exhausting. The problem isn't any single piece of information. The problem is accumulation. Your mind deserves room to think, not just room to remember. That's why clarity grows through subtraction. Most people believe clarity arrives by finding more answers. Often, clarity arrives by removing unnecessary questions. A sculptor does not create a masterpiece by adding marble. The sculptor removes what does not belong. The same principle shapes a focused life. Remove distractions. Remove unnecessary commitments. Remove endless opinions. Remove meaningless information. What remains becomes obvious. That's the key. Some of the most successful people in the world appear surprisingly boring from the outside. They wear similar clothes, follow similar schedules, eat similar meals, work on similar priorities. This is not because they lack imagination. It is because they understand the cost of constant decision-making. Every unnecessary decision steals attention from meaningful ones. By simplifying ordinary choices, they preserve mental energy for extraordinary work. That is wisdom, not complexity. Simplicity. Choose wisely. There is another habit that quietly destroys focus. The habit of responding immediately. A message arrives. You answer. Someone asks for help. You stop everything. A notification appears. You react instantly. Eventually, your life becomes a series of responses instead of deliberate actions. Reaction feels productive. Direction creates results. You have a choice. React to everything, or respond intentionally. There is a difference. Reaction is automatic. Response is deliberate. Focused people respond. Distracted people react. You decide which person you will become. As you continue strengthening this habit of selective attention, something remarkable happens. The world begins to feel quieter. Not because the noise disappears, because you stop inviting it inside. Arguments lose their power. Trends lose their urgency. Distractions lose their attraction. Your priorities become easier to recognize. Your work becomes deeper. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your life begins moving in a single direction instead of 100 competing ones. That is the hidden reward of ignoring what does not matter. Freedom. Freedom from constant urgency. Freedom from endless comparison. Freedom from unnecessary complexity. Freedom to invest your attention where it creates the greatest return. Remember this principle every morning. Before opening your phone. Before checking your email. Before saying yes. Before consuming another piece of information. Ask yourself, does this deserve my attention? If the answer is uncertain, the answer is probably no. Protect your attention. Protect your future. Repeat these words until they become instinct. Not everything deserves your attention. When a new trend appears, remember them. When another opinion demands your approval, remember them. When another distraction promises excitement, remember them. Not everything deserves your attention. And then make the decision that extraordinary people make every single day. Choose wisely. Because every wise choice creates another hour of deep work. Every hour of deep work creates another meaningful result. And those results, repeated over months and years, become a life that distracted people admire but rarely understand. Now that you know how to ignore what doesn't matter, it is time to see what becomes possible when your attention is finally directed toward what truly does. Chapter 10. Become someone. The world cannot distract. This audiobook was never really about productivity. It was never about checking fewer emails. It was never about organizing your calendar. It was never about finding another time management technique. Those things matter. But they were never the destination. The real destination has always been identity. Because lasting change never happens when you temporarily improve your behavior. It happens when you permanently change who you believe you are. That is the difference between people who struggle with distraction for the rest of their lives and people who quietly accomplish extraordinary things. One group tries to focus. The other becomes focused. One group fights temptation every day. The other builds a life where temptation gradually loses its power. That's the key. The goal is not to win one battle against distraction. The goal is to become someone the world cannot easily distract. Think back to everything you have learned. You discovered that attention is your life. You learned that every distraction has a price. You saw how constant noise weakens the mind. You removed unnecessary complexity instead of endlessly optimizing it. You trained yourself to stay with one task. You learned to protect your attention as if it were your greatest financial asset. You embraced boredom instead of escaping it. You built systems that replaced motivation. You learned to ignore what does not deserve your attention. You discovered that focus compounds over years until ordinary effort becomes extraordinary results. These were never isolated lessons. They were building blocks, brick by brick, habit by habit, decision by decision. They were constructing a different version of you. You have a choice. Continue thinking of focus as something you occasionally practice, or begin thinking of yourself as someone who naturally protects attention. That single shift changes everything. Imagine someone who says, "I'm trying to stop eating unhealthy food." Now imagine someone else who says, "I am a healthy person." Notice the difference. The first sentence describes an action. The second describes an identity. Identity shapes behavior far more powerfully than temporary motivation. The same principle applies to attention. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to focus," say, "I am someone who protects my attention." Instead of saying, "I'm trying to stop getting distracted," say, "I don't allow distractions to control my life." Small changes in language create profound changes in behavior because your brain is constantly trying to remain consistent with the person you believe yourself to be. Become the kind of person who values depth over noise. Become the kind of person who finishes before beginning something new. Become the kind of person who chooses silence over unnecessary stimulation. Become the kind of person who thinks before reacting. Become the kind of person who deliberately directs attention instead of allowing attention to be directed. Identity first. Behavior follows. That's the discipline. Many people spend years searching for better techniques while ignoring a more important question. Who am I becoming because of my daily habits? Every repeated action casts a vote. Every morning ritual casts a vote. Every deep work session casts a vote. Every unnecessary distraction also casts a vote. Slowly, quietly, consistently, your habits shape your identity. That is why seemingly ordinary decisions matter so much. Choosing to finish one important task instead of scrolling through your phone may appear insignificant. It isn't. You're teaching yourself something. I finish what I begin. Ignoring one unnecessary notification seems small. Again, it isn't. You're teaching yourself, my attention belongs to me. Closing social media during work feels ordinary. Yet another vote. I choose creation over consumption. No single vote decides the election. Thousands of votes do. Your identity grows exactly the same way. You become what you repeatedly practice. This is why truly focused people do not appear to struggle constantly. From the outside, they seem naturally disciplined. People assume they possess unusual willpower. That assumption is usually wrong. They simply spent years training their identity. They no longer debate whether to protect their attention. The decision has already been made. Think about a professional pilot. Before every flight, safety procedures are completed. Not because the pilot suddenly feels inspired, not because motivation appears at the perfect moment, because this is simply who they are. Excellence has become automatic. Focus should become equally automatic, not forced, not dramatic, natural. The world will continue changing. Technology will become faster. Artificial intelligence will become more capable. Information will become even more abundant. Notifications will become more personalized. Algorithms will become better at predicting what captures your attention. The competition for your mind will only become stronger. This means something important. Focus is no longer simply a productivity skill. It is becoming one of the defining life skills of the future. Those who control their attention will control the direction of their lives. Those who surrender it will spend their lives following the priorities of others. That is the reality of the modern world. You have a choice. Become the author of your attention, or become the audience of someone else's agenda. Focus is not something you use only while working. It is a philosophy for living. It influences the quality of every conversation, every relationship, every decision, every opportunity, every challenge. When you speak with someone, be completely there. When you read, truly read. When you work, truly work. When you rest, truly rest. When you love, truly love. Half attention creates half experiences. Complete attention creates complete living. That is one of the greatest lessons this audiobook can offer. Where your attention goes, your life follows. Think about a gardener. Every day, they decide where to place water. The flowers receiving consistent care grow stronger. The neglected plants slowly fade. Attention functions the same way. Whatever receives your consistent attention becomes stronger. Feed fear, and fear grows. Feed distraction, and distraction grows. Feed discipline, and discipline grows. Feed focus, and focus grows. You are watering something every single day. Choose carefully. Every protected hour becomes another investment. Unlike money, this investment transforms the investor. Every uninterrupted hour strengthens patience, strengthens discipline, strengthens clarity, strengthens confidence, strengthens wisdom. Hour by hour, your future becomes different from the future of someone who constantly reacts. Imagine two lives separated by one simple habit. One person spends every day responding to whatever appears first. The other begins every day by protecting 1 hour of meaningful work. At first, they seem almost identical. After 1 week, the difference is invisible. After 1 month, still small. After 1 year, noticeable. After 10 years, extraordinary. The gap was never created by one remarkable day. It was created by protected hours. That is how destiny changes, not dramatically, consistently. The greatest danger you now face is forgetting these lessons. Knowledge fades when it is not practiced. Inspiration disappears. Motivation rises and falls. But identity remains. Do not leave this audiobook saying, "That was interesting." Leave saying, "That is who I am now." Become the person who automatically asks, "Does this deserve my attention?" Become the person who protects mornings, who finishes meaningful work, who welcomes silence, who embraces boredom, who says no without guilt, who chooses depth over speed, who values quality over quantity, who understands that every distraction has a price. Become impossible to distract. Not because distractions disappear, because your priorities become stronger than your temptations. There will still be difficult days. There will still be moments when your phone seems impossible to ignore. There will still be seasons when life becomes noisy. Do not expect perfection. Expect progress. When you become distracted, notice it. Return. When you lose focus, begin again. When you fail, learn. When routines break, rebuild them. The disciplined person is not someone who never falls. The disciplined person is someone who always returns. Stay with it. Again, and again, and again. Eventually, returning becomes faster than wandering. Then, wandering becomes less frequent. Finally, focus becomes your natural state. That is mastery. As we reach the end of this journey, remember that the world will continue competing for your attention tomorrow morning. Nothing outside you will change overnight. Your phone will still ring. Messages will still arrive. Advertisements will still compete for your eyes. The difference is that you have changed. You now understand the value of what you possess. Your attention is not something to spend carelessly. It is the foundation of every meaningful achievement you will ever create. Carry these final words with you. Repeat them every morning. Repeat them before beginning your most important work. Repeat them whenever the world tries to pull your attention away from what matters. Your attention creates your destiny. Every focused hour shapes the person you're becoming. Every protected moment strengthens your future. Every disciplined decision compounds into a life of purpose. So guard your attention with courage. Guard your time with intention. Guard your mind with discipline. Protect your focus, because no one else can do it for you. Protect your future, because it is being built one decision at a time. And above all, become the kind of person whose attention cannot be bought, borrowed, manipulated, or stolen. Become the person who chooses depth in a world addicted to distraction. Become the person who creates while others consume. Become the person who finishes while others begin again. Become the person who quietly builds an extraordinary life, one focused day at a time. Become impossible to distract. The world will never stop demanding your attention. There will always be another notification, another message, another headline, another excuse to postpone what matters most. But now you know the truth. Focus is not talent. It is not luck. It is not personality. It is a decision you make every single day. Every time you protect your attention, you protect your future. Every time you resist distraction, you strengthen your mind. Every time you finish what you started, you become someone different. Not overnight, but permanently. Remember this: deep focus is the rarest advantage in the modern world. The people who master it will build the future. The people who ignore it will spend their lives reacting to everyone else's priorities. So beginning today, choose one important task. Give it your complete attention. Finish it before you move on. Then repeat that process tomorrow, and the day after that, because your future will never be created by divided attention. It will be created by deep focus. Now close every distraction and begin.